My child. Today, a sealed DNA report is finally about to reveal a truth that has been hidden for years. The person you have been thinking about never imagined that a single envelope could change everything they believed about their past. What was supposed to remain buried forever is now standing at the edge of being exposed. Don't skip. Because every moment of this story leads to a shocking discovery that no one saw coming. Listen carefully. For a very long time, your soulmate carried questions inside their heart that no one could answer. There were strange memories, unexplained family tensions, and moments when certain relatives would suddenly become silent whenever old stories were mentioned. At first, they ignored these signs, believing that every family has secrets. But deep inside, something kept whispering that an important piece of their life was missing. Then one ordinary morning, an unexpected phone call changed everything. A legal office informed your soulmate that an old DNA report, forgotten for years, had finally been released after a family dispute was settled. No one expected this report to surface again. Even the relatives who knew about it believed it would stay locked away forever. As your soulmate held the sealed envelope in their hands, their heart began racing. Something about that document felt unusually heavy, as if it carried years of hidden pain. Every step toward opening it became more difficult. They looked around the room, wondering why destiny had chosen this exact moment. Meanwhile, certain family members suddenly became nervous. Calls were made behind closed doors. Quiet conversations stopped the moment your soulmate entered the room. Faces that normally looked calm now carried fear. It became obvious that someone already knew what was hidden inside that report. Don't skip. Because the greatest surprise had not yet arrived. Before opening the envelope, your soulmate remembered something that had happened years earlier. There had always been one person in the family who treated your name differently. Whenever your story was mentioned, they quickly changed the subject. At the time, it seemed meaningless. Now those forgotten moments returned with incredible clarity. Slowly, your soulmate unfolded the report. Their eyes moved across the first few lines, but then suddenly stopped. They blinked several times, unable to believe what they were reading. The room became completely silent. Even breathing felt difficult. The information inside the report didn't simply answer one question, it opened the door to dozens of new mysteries. Names that had always been accepted as truth suddenly no longer made sense. Dates that everyone believed were correct no longer matched. Someone had carefully hidden the real story for many years. Shock turned into disbelief. Your soulmate immediately realized that the biggest lie had never been about the DNA itself. The biggest lie was about why the truth had been hidden in the first place. Every decision, every separation, every misunderstanding suddenly looked completely different. Outside the room, footsteps approached. Someone who had desperately hoped this envelope would never be opened was now standing just beyond the door. The handle slowly began to turn. The door opened slowly, and everyone inside the room turned toward the unexpected visitor. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Your soulmate held the DNA report tightly in trembling hands while the silence grew heavier with every passing second. The person standing at the doorway looked directly at the envelope, and the color immediately drained from their face. They knew exactly what had been discovered. Before anyone could ask a single question, they quietly whispered, "I prayed this day would never come." Those words changed everything. Your soulmate stared at them in disbelief. How could they already know what was inside the report? Why were they speaking as though they had been carrying this secret for years? Questions flooded their mind faster than answers could appear. Every memory from childhood suddenly returned with new meaning. Every strange conversation, every unexpected argument, every unexplained warning now felt connected to this single moment. Don't skip. The relative slowly walked across the room and sat down without saying another word. Tears filled their eyes, but they still couldn't gather enough courage to explain the truth. Instead, they looked at the report and quietly said, "The DNA never lied. People did." Those words struck your soulmate harder than anything else. For years, everyone had believed one version of the family's history. But according to the report, someone had deliberately changed important records, hidden documents, and convinced everyone to believe a carefully created story. The truth had never disappeared, it had simply been buried beneath fear and silence. Your soulmate looked again at the report. One small note attached to the final page caught their attention. It wasn't part of the laboratory results. It was a handwritten message left by someone years ago. It read, "If this report is ever opened, please don't judge anyone until you know why we made this impossible decision." The handwriting looked familiar. Your soulmate searched their memory, trying to remember where they had seen those letters before. Suddenly, an old birthday card appeared in their mind. Then a faded family photograph. And finally, a letter hidden inside an old wooden box many years ago. It was the exact same handwriting. Their heartbeat became faster. That meant one person had known the entire truth from the very beginning. Without wasting another second, your soulmate rushed toward the old storage room where forgotten family belongings had been kept for years. Dust covered every shelf, but one wooden box immediately caught their attention. It was the same box nobody had opened in a very long time. Inside were dozens of old photographs, faded letters, and one small sealed envelope. Across the front, only 6 words had been written. "Open only after the DNA report." Your soulmate froze. Whoever had written that message had predicted this exact day years in advance. With shaking hands, they slowly reached for the envelope. Just before they could break the seal, a voice echoed from behind them. "Please don't open it. Because once you read what's inside, our family will never be the same again." Your soulmate slowly turned around. Standing in the doorway was the oldest member of the family, someone who had always remained silent whenever the past was discussed. Their eyes were filled with regret instead of anger. They weren't trying to protect themselves anymore, they were trying to protect everyone else from the truth that had been hidden for decades. For a long moment, nobody moved. The sealed envelope remained in your soulmate's hands while the silence became almost unbearable. Every heartbeat seemed louder than the last. Deep inside, they already knew there was no turning back. Some truths may stay hidden for years, but once destiny decides to reveal them, nothing can stop them. Don't skip. Your soulmate gently broke the seal and unfolded the yellowed letter inside. The paper had grown fragile with age, but the handwriting was still clear. The very first sentence made them stop breathing for a moment. If you are reading this, it means the DNA report has finally reached you, and the promise we made can no longer be kept. Every word felt heavier than the one before. The letter explained that many years ago, one heartbreaking decision had been made after a terrible family crisis. It wasn't done out of hatred, it was done out of fear. Someone believed that hiding the truth would protect the people they loved. But instead of protecting them, the secret slowly destroyed trust, relationships, and happiness for everyone involved. As your soulmate continued reading, they noticed several names written throughout the letter. Some belonged to relatives they knew well. Others belonged to people they had never heard of before. One particular name appeared over and over again, almost as if that person had been the center of everything. Then, near the bottom of the page, one sentence changed everything. There was always one person who deserved to know the truth first. But we were too afraid to tell them. Your soulmate immediately wondered who that person was. They turned the page. A folded photograph slipped out and landed on the floor. The picture looked ordinary at first, just a family gathering from many years earlier. But when your soulmate looked closer, something unbelievable stood out. Someone in the background had been deliberately scratched out of the photograph. It wasn't an accident. Every trace of that person's face had been carefully removed. Why would anyone erase a single person from an old family picture? Your soulmate picked up the photograph and held it beside the letter. Then they noticed something almost invisible. On the back of the photograph, written in faded ink, were the words, "The DNA report will prove what this picture cannot." A chill ran through the room. Suddenly, another envelope fell from inside the wooden box. Unlike the first one, this envelope carried an official seal from a law office. Across the front were just 7 handwritten words. This must be opened with every family member present. Your soulmate looked toward the living room, where voices were beginning to gather. One by one, relatives were arriving at the house. Some looked frightened. Some looked confused. And one person quietly turned around. As if they were planning to leave before the final truth was revealed. Your soulmate immediately noticed the person quietly walking toward the front door. Something about their nervous movements felt different. While everyone else was gathering in the living room, this one relative seemed desperate to disappear before the final envelope could be opened. That alone was enough to raise suspicion. "Please wait," your soulmate said firmly. The room fell completely silent. Every pair of eyes turned toward the person standing beside the door. For a few seconds, they refused to look at anyone. Their hands trembled, and tears slowly formed in their eyes. Finally, they whispered, "If that letter is opened today, everything our family has believed for years will fall apart." Don't skip. No one moved. Your soulmate carefully placed the law office envelope on the table. Every family member gathered around it, knowing there was no longer any escape from the past. The official seal was still untouched, proving that no one had opened it since the day it had been prepared years ago. With one slow breath, your soulmate broke the seal. Inside were several certified documents, a handwritten statement, and one final page stamped with a legal signature. The statement explained that the DNA report had never been questioned by the laboratory. Instead, someone inside the family had hidden the results before they could ever be shared. A wave of shock spread across the room. One elderly relative suddenly covered their face and began crying. Another quietly admitted that they had been asked never to speak about the report, no matter what happened. Fear had kept everyone silent, and year after year the lie had grown larger. As your soulmate continued reading, another unexpected detail appeared. The report wasn't the only thing that had been hidden. There had also been a second document, one that explained the real reason the DNA test had been ordered in the first place. Without that missing document, the report told only half of the story. Everyone looked at one another in confusion. "Where is the second document?" someone asked. No one answered. Then, the oldest family member slowly stood up and pointed toward an old bookshelf that had remained locked for decades. "There is one final file," they said with a trembling voice. "I hoped no one would ever have to read it." Your soulmate walked toward the bookshelf and unlocked the small wooden cabinet. Inside was a single leather folder covered in dust. On the front, in faded handwriting, were the words, "The complete truth." As your soulmate reached for the folder, they noticed something hidden beneath it. It was a recent photograph. Unlike the old family picture, this one had been taken only a few months earlier. Someone had secretly been watching your soulmate. On the back of the photograph was a chilling handwritten message. The truth didn't end with the DNA report. It begins here. Your soulmate stared at the recent photograph, unable to understand why someone had secretly taken it only a few months earlier. The DNA report had already uncovered one hidden truth, but now it was becoming painfully clear that the mystery had never been about science alone. It had always been about choices, silence, and the price an entire family had paid to protect one decision. The room remained completely still. Every relative watched as your soulmate slowly turned the photograph over again, hoping another clue might appear. Instead, tucked behind the picture was one final handwritten letter. The paper was newer than the others. It had been written recently. With trembling hands, your soulmate unfolded it and began reading. "If you have reached this page, then you finally know that the DNA report was real. But I need you to understand something before you judge anyone. I was the one who hid the truth. I believed I was protecting the family. I believed the secret would prevent heartbreak. Instead, I created years of pain, broken relationships, unanswered questions, and endless regret. I have lived with this guilt every single day. Tears filled the eyes of several family members. For the first time, everyone understood that the greatest burden had never been the DNA report itself. It had been the weight of carrying a lie for so many years. Don't skip. The letter continued. The DNA report did not destroy this family. My fear did. Every opportunity to tell the truth became harder than the one before it. Eventually, I convinced myself that silence was the safest choice. I was wrong. The person who had tried to leave the house earlier slowly stepped forward. With tears running down their face, they admitted they had known pieces of the truth but had never possessed the courage to reveal them. They apologized to everyone in the room, especially to your soulmate, whose life had been shaped by answers that were never real. No one interrupted. No one argued. The silence spoke louder than any words ever could. Your soulmate looked around the room and realized that every person there had suffered because of one hidden secret. Some had lost trust. Some had lost precious years with people they loved. Others had spent their lives believing a story that had never been true. At that moment, your soulmate carefully folded the DNA report, placed it back inside its envelope, and said quietly, "The truth came late. But it still came." Those simple words broke the tension. Family members embraced one another through tears. Old misunderstandings began to disappear. Long-held resentment slowly gave way to forgiveness. The past could never be rewritten, but the future no longer had to be built on deception. As everyone prepared to leave, the oldest member of the family walked over to your soulmate with one final gift. It was a small wooden box. Inside was a note that simply read, "Never hide the truth from the people you love. Secrets may survive for years, but the truth always finds its way home." Your soulmate smiled through the tears. For the first time in many years, the weight that had silently followed the family was finally gone. The DNA report had revealed more than biological facts. It had revealed courage. It had revealed regret. It had revealed forgiveness. And most importantly, it had revealed that no matter how deeply the truth is buried, it will always find the right moment to be heard. From that day forward, the family chose honesty over fear, healing over silence, and love over the lies that had once divided them. The mystery was finally over. But the lesson remained forever.